Hello and welcome to the CDO magazine interview series. I'm Lior, the CEO and co-founder of Yuki. We are a Snowflake native partner focused on automatic cost optimization in Snowflake. And today, I'm excited to speak with Lior Solomon, VP of Data at Drata.
How's it going? I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so now you have to worry about more things. Once it was, the uptime and the operations that you run on Snowflake in terms of compute or storage. And now you also have like the token optimizations that you need to run. Do you think that when you combine all of these parameters, do you think that there is a room for automatic optimizations instead of like creating dashboards or giving visibility and look at it by the end of the month, like something that will do it on real time, like maybe optimize your prompt or optimize your computer location?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are, and you know better than me, that there are definitely you build a business around it. There's definitely a lot of opportunities there. Um, I think it's um, I think it's really interesting how, again, I think my kind of like instinct is before I introduce more complexity to the pipeline, I want to first of all be very attentive to the business impact it's going to bring, because then it will help me understand how many calories should I burn on actually optimize this. So I'm starting with like, let's get closer to the stakeholder. Let's understand what they're trying to achieve. Let's see that they can actually bring the ROI back, and then bring in the heavy guns, bring those and I think that's where those solutions that are continuously optimizing, continuously monitoring behind the scenes will be much more relevant versus like, a manual kind of checkup, whatever, once a month or whatever the CFO sends me an email saying, hey, what's up with that bill?
Well, I love your approach. It sounds like you are building a startup. You have the startup mentality inside your organization, which is not that big, but it's big enough to, have heavy processes, and you are treating it like it's a small startup, like getting the MVP done, see if you bring value, get closer to the customer. In your case, it's the stakeholder, and then start building and scaling. But before you scale, you want to make sure that you are actually bringing value, not like,
Yeah.
developing a rocket and then selling selling the press. All right.
No, absolutely. I'm kind of leaning towards leading you probably read that it was recently there was this article coming from MIT in regards of like 95% of generative AI pilot projects will fail to deliver like a meaningful kind of impact to the P&L. And I'm kind of like, it's stuck into my head, and I can see how those projects can go so wrong because you need to invest so much, to it's such a big gap between, oh, I took a document, I threw it in ChatGPT, I asked him something, I got an answer, versus doing that at scale on tens of thousands of documents, the aggregation level of it, what type of prompts are there, how do you optimize it, the runtime, all that is like a huge gap. So I think it's like that's the shift in mentality that the whole industry needs to kind of like change their mindset. And I know that if I'll stick to my old ways of like, oh, hold on, let me build a pipeline, let me put the monitoring, observability, I'll talk to you in 2 months when I'm ready. I don't think my stakeholders will be, and the business won't be, Chart is a hyper growth company, and we're very ambitious, so we have to be very kind of focused and attentive and prioritizing well when we do that.
I love it. I love it. Um, One key aspect of building an AI initiative is getting the data, getting the underlying data ready to query, ready to analyze by AI. And I heard that you are using DBT. You just mentioned it. How do you make sure that you spend the exact amount of money on DBT? And I'll explain, like, how do you make sure that you are not over provisioning the resources for DBT? Because what we found out is that from our, we built a company around it, and we are doing automatic optimizations. And what we found out is that almost 80% of the queries that are sent to DBT doesn't really need, let's speak in Snowflake terms, a warehouse higher than extra small. So how do you make sure that you are not over provisioning? Do you have any play around it?
Yeah, so I would say that first of all, we do spend time in just like cleanup. basically looking into reports and seeing what sort of like we basically prioritize. We just did it, I think, last quarter. We prioritize all the jobs that are running in dbt in terms of like the time they run, the compute time that they're actually consuming, and then we try and look into what's that ratio to actually the consumption of that dbt model downstream by stakeholders. The one that are actually, hey, like I'm wasting so much calories on this dbt job and doesn't get the same level of usage, then we have a tough discussion: should we just deprecate and just kill it altogether? um, and and then in some cases we actually split it, like when we identified a certain jobs that best for different type of compute units or different type of warehouse, we would split those dbt models into two different warehouses. um, but to be honest, it's a very manual and very kind of like, gnarly process that we need to go through. um, we'll do it, I don't know, once a quarter, just dig into it. I definitely think that's an area that we want to improve and kind of bring something a little bit more automatic around that.
I think, yeah, it's very repetitive, and like you need to do it every time for every new job that you are developing, every new model. So we found it very repetitive and tedious. Um, my next question will be, in my previous role, I was the head of data, and it was like 3 years ago. And head of data's the treatment to the data department was like, we are not developers, and we are not go to market. We are something in between. And do you feel any change with the upcoming rising of the AI and everything? Like, did your role change? The attention towards your department maybe changed?
Yeah, that's a I have a good story there. I think like the whole so when we started, I'll take one step back from the data platform specifically. There's two different departments that reports to me in Drata. One is the data team, and the other one is the AI org. So in the AI org, what they focus on is all the customer-facing pipelines. We separate those two different problems. So if there's like an AI initiative which is related to the GTM teams or GTM departments, that'll go to the data platform team. If it's related to a customer facing, that's what the AI and actual AI developers and AI engineers, and we can spend another 30 minutes just talking about like what is that new role. But they actually we have a different kind of department because they're the level of like, it's like customer facing, the scalability, and kind of like it bears for different kind of processes. um, Before we had that AI org, the way we came up with this kind of like fiddling with the idea of like what does AI in the world of compliance means, this whole kind of like story started within the data platform team. We took like it was about 2 years ago, I would say. We actually did a POC with showing how can we answer security questionnaires using a large language model. Um, and and that was like a small POC, like in a small sandbox where we started in data platform team, and it grew up to the point where we really convinced leadership there's like a real product we can build with it. When it got to the point where it's like, okay, we're gonna spend budget, we're gonna spend resources, and kind of go and build a whole product around it, that was the point where we actually spin it out from the data platform because having the same team doing this and also serving internal stakeholders, I think it's way too much that they can chew on. Um, so and we're actually keeping that kind of like level of balance. So there would be opportunities. I'll give you another example. There would be opportunities that we identify within the data platform team, and eventually we would think about like I'll give you an example. Well, QBR reports, for example. We're doing the CSMs, and they go on a quarterly basis. They meet their customers, and they're trying to explain like what's the value that Drata brought into the world. Um, and instead of like in the old world where the CSM would go through like I don't know, a couple of good dashboards to try and figure out which metric is the most sexiest one to put in front of their customers, we actually we're still doing this project where we're thinking of using large language model to actually expose like a metric layer where we expose all those relevant metrics, and to have a large language model basically set up like a report that the CSM can take with them to the to that QBR. Now, this is still going through and seems very successful, but if it matures to the point where like actually that's the pipeline, I want to democratize this. I want to take it outside of the human being taking it. I want to put it on the product. I want to be able to for my customers to go and actually log in, and instead of having waiting for the whole quarter to understand where the impact was, I want to be able for them to have the kind of like an agent kind of a user experience where they can go and maybe talk to the data and say, hey, tell me what's my readiness on compliance on SOC 2 for the past 2 months, and let the agent answer directly to them. So that sort of activity that will come from the AI org. At that point, the production is putting it into production, go through the AI team. So maybe that helps you kind of understand the mental model between the world of like I feel like the data platform team, and it's like it's a pretty challenging position to be in, right? You're
Yeah.
gonna be you're gonna be entertaining a lot of hypotheses that maybe won't see the day of light. You need to also own the existing pipelines and the quality of those pipelines, the freshness of them, and all that, and also kind of like entertaining new ideas that maybe you'll find some gold and kind of drive it to the customers. So that's how we kind of like that's how we balance this and makes it as sane as possible.
Thank you, Lior, for joining me today. It was a great conversation. For more insights and interviews, go to the CDO magazine website.